Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good mate. How you been? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while.
Yeah. Everything good?
All is well. All is well. Can you hear me all right? Is everything all right your end?
Yeah, mate. Yeah. You can hear me?
I can hear you beautifully. It's very 2020, 2021, isn't it, to check everyone can hear each other?
Yeah, well, it's been the only way to communicate, isn't it, for the past year?
I know.
Yeah, thanks for doing this tonight with us. I'm gonna I think we'll sort of let you take the reins a little bit, and we'll just kind of riff.
Yeah, we'll go for it. Yeah, I'm really sort of intrigued to get into the keep the band stuff and the latest video and the campaign there. Kind of a bit of a continuation, I suppose, off of where we've been talking recently. Well, in our last couple of conversations, I think, when we first spoke, obviously a completely different world back then. It was face to face for a start. But we were very much talking about your kind of journey into sabbing, etc. And I think you must have been 2 years in maybe at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe a year and a half, something like that. So it was quite a while ago. It was one of the earlier podcasts. Yeah. So it'd be good to sort of pick up from there, really, and kind of what's happened since. I know we talked sort of offline about the hunt season kind of coming to a pretty abrupt end with COVID, etc., which was probably great news for all. But I've heard some bits about subsidies and things like that. So, it'd be good to get into any of that kind of stuff. And just really like I say, the keep the band stuff. I've got loads of stuff I want to put to you, really. Hopefully some other folks have too.
Yeah, well, like I say, since we last properly spoke, and as you said, we spoke off camera a little bit, it's been just sort of a continuation of what I've been trying to do, trying to sort of take the fight to them sort of in a different way to just being in the field. Obviously, sabbing in the field, physically being there, that is, the work that sabs do. But I just feel like there was still, I think as we said before, I always feel that there's other ways we can take the fight to them. There's other things we can try and do, new methods, things that maybe haven't been done before. And there is good reason why some things haven't been done before. But the video obviously being let's go back to, the hunt season was thankfully abruptly ended by Corona and the pandemic. Some hunts were allowed to still go out when they had the whole certain sporting activities were still allowed to happen, which is obviously infuriating for hunt sabs because that was when you couldn't mix households. So for us to go and sab these hunts, which were again acting legally, it would be illegal for sabs to be there because we would all be from different households. So we were sort of put in this very difficult position of we want to be there, we want to stop what they're doing, but it almost felt that it would have been easier for us to have been targeted by the police.
Right.
So yeah, we were put in a very difficult position. I know some sabs did still go out, which was brilliant. It didn't, which was great. But then thankfully the whole of the hunt season did get stopped, and it was brilliant. Obviously, there's been a lot of negative things going on the past year with this pandemic, but from us as sabs, from our perspective, it was like a silver lining. And it was sort of there was so many stresses going on with the pandemic, not having to worry about sabbing, like having that stress taken away was, which was kind of thankful to be able to deal with our own personal issues with the pandemic. But there was still this thing in the back of my head and back of other sabs' heads that you were just still convinced they're going out, despite, what they've been told they're not going out, they're not allowed to go out. Part of your brain is still thinking like they are, or they're still doing things that are untoward. Some footage, has been filmed of people going out hare coursing and just doing some really sketchy stuff in the countryside. So that was always a constant worry. But I just thought during this time, for the first time in years, the hunt season hasn't gone on ahead. I thought instead of sabs sitting back and sort of, taking the time off to relax or whatever, we should still keep up the fight, but try and do it in a different way. And thankfully, while this was going on, all the webinars got leaked, which was a fantastic thing. So much information from their live webcast got leaked, and all the things they were saying were things that sabs have been saying for years, and it couldn't have come at a better time. It's like the whole season's been cancelled. They're going to lose money. They're going to lose following, and then this webinar comes out, and it just felt like the perfect time to go at them more, because now all the things that we've been pushing, all the illegal shady stuff they do in the countryside, they were literally on camera saying it, and it got shared out to the world. And I was like, awesome! We can really we can keep going. We can use this time between now and the next hunt season to really try and pick them apart more, break them down more, try and just do anything that's when the hunt season does come back, the hunt are weaker than ever. And by this point, if we've been able to think of new ways to go at them, new tactics, if we can recruit more people, then we can come back as a bigger, stronger collective of hunt sabs. And that's just that's always been my mindset with all of this. Is I've always sort of looked at everything we do and always tried to work out, can we do more? Can we do things in a different way? Never saying that the methods we use aren't effective, because they are, but I always think there's got to be other angles, other ways to come at them. And that's sort of where this all come from. So I started doing the live streams. I did an entire week of live streams with hunt sabs, because there's so many negative perceptions of hunt sabs and hunt sabbing, which I just never feel get properly addressed. They're there in these misconceptions, and I just feel that they should be spoken about more. Things like obviously the mental health side of things, which I'm doing a lot of live streams about. I wanted to talk about that element more, because that's not spoken about. Just how not only physically challenging as hunt sabbing, but mentally challenging. It's a really tough thing to do. So doing all those talks just felt really positive, and the response was incredible. And the amount of people that did get back to me and say thanks to for answering these questions and talking about these topics, you've allowed me to move forward with my want to become a hunt sab. And I know some people have now moved forward and reached out to hunt sab groups, which is brilliant. And I was like, cool, this method of sort of trying to be open and honest and have these real conversations, it's worth the risk of, once again, putting myself into the eye of the hunt, but sort of for this greater good, which I think sometimes in activism is sometimes forgotten about, sort of the bigger picture. And then, thankfully during the week of live streams with the hunt sabs, Rob from Keep the Band contacted me saying he was liking them. He wanted to get involved with one, because what's great about Keep the Band's work is, they focus on the other side of the fight, the campaigning, the taking these things to the MPs, trying to get laws changed and strengthened. And again, I think from, hunt sabbing being physical activism is maybe something that is sort of forgotten about, because our fight is the physical fight in the field, and we sort of forget about the importance of campaigning and protesting, and the things that some people think aren't effective, like the getting signatures and taking these ideas to the courts. And that's what I liked about what Keep the Band was doing. And again, I felt like there must be a way that we can sort of pull that element of activism and hunt sabbing element of activism and bring them together, and again just become a bigger team of activism, all working for the same cause, but just just coming from different angles. And then we did the live stream with Rob, which was really insightful, because my knowledge of activism and hunt sabbing is the physical side of it. I don't, I never really looked too much into the campaigning and the possibilities of what can be done in terms of putting new ideas to the courts and to change the laws. And then after the conversation, Rob spoke to me and he was like, "Look, I really like what we're doing. There's got to be a way that we can collaborate on a few things." And that's when I put the idea to him of this video, because I've wanted to film this sort of video that we filmed for a long time now, but obviously there are huge risks involved. It's not been done before because of the risk and the consequence that could potentially come with it. So I understand why it's not been done. But I put the idea to Rob, and he was all for it, and thankfully gave me the opportunity and the position to make this film, which I think is going to be the benefits are going to outweigh any sort of negative consequences that may come of it.
Yeah, I want to go back to that, because it sort of all connects really nicely at this point. Go back to the bit about the leaked videos. Yeah. So these videos were leaked, I think, and I'm conscious to say everyone saw them, because I think, sometimes you come at it from your social media bubble and you think everyone's seen everything when maybe they haven't. But still, it made national news. It was on ITV. It was picked up when I think, there might have been a time when it wasn't. And I'll go back to our first conversation, and I think we spoke about, and you've touched upon it in your point there, that the general public are certainly probably against the ban. I can't remember the stats, you'll know better than me, but it's in the 80%, are for the ban. So it's 80-something% of the general public are against fox hunting and think it's barbaric and all the things we know. But there's probably, and this is coming from my own, I suppose, whatever, naive perspective, but that the general public also probably has a slight skepticism of hunt sabs. That they sort of almost think of perhaps they believe some of that negative press about, countryside terrorists and all that kind of nonsense that gets bandied about by the hunt. Do you think the work with Keep the Ban, in terms of the legal stuff, the video particularly, and this kind of melding of these worlds, is kind of crucial work to help move that needle so that the public perception is with the SABs, and therefore is willing to listen to what is actually still going on? Because I think most people would think it's finished. It finished years ago. Yeah,
well, I mean, this is something that is addressed in the upcoming parts of the video. Is the majority of the general public, and it sounds weird to say this before I justify the point of it, but the majority of the public, it's not in their thought process whether hunting goes on, because why would it be? If they have no connection to the countryside, or they have no connection to the idea of what hunting is, it won't be it's not something they'll think about. So it's not until you talk to the public and say, do you know this activity still goes on? That's when they're so shocked to it, because they've not really considered since, when the ban came in back in 2005, to everyone that cared about it and was against it, who wasn't a hunt sab, in their minds, it stopped, it went away. And for the rest of the public, it just wasn't something that they would ever consider thinking about. Right. And so I think the good thing about the video of Keep the Ban is sort of taking it to the public and showing, like, yes, this does still happen. Thankfully, because of, hunt sab footage, more of the public are aware that this happens. But then that comes with sort of the negative perceptions, because as we know, the videos that go viral through hunt sabbing, unfortunately, they are the videos of the kills. They are the videos of the assaults and the fights, because they're the very clickbaity videos that, unfortunately, in a sort of sadistic way, because of the way the internet works, they're the videos people want to see. Yeah. And so they're the only videos that get shared around. And a lot of the time, there's not a lot of context behind the footage, the situation. It's just sort of shared, like, look how shocking this bit of footage is, look how shocking this event is, which is great. These videos need to go viral, because the world needs to see the reality that they are hunting to kill, they are violent, they are aggressive. But then it will also put people off, because anyone who wants to become involved with activism and hunt sabbing will see these videos. Sorry, I think we got cut off there for a second. They'll see these videos, these very horrible, videos. They aren't nice, and I've witnessed, some of these things. I fully understand why people who want to become hunt sabs but are worried based on the footage they've seen. I fully understand that. That's part of this video I wanted to film, is sort of just talk about these points and not hide away from the reality of what goes on in the field, the dangers and the risks, but also to show that it doesn't happen as often as is sort of perceived by the public. It's just because, like I say, these are the videos that go viral, and with the amount of hunt sab groups across the country. Sorry, I'm paused. Unfortunately, with the amount of hunt sab groups in the country, every week one group or one individual, unfortunately, is going to have a bad week, and then that'll be the footage that week that goes viral. So every week, the public are sort of getting this, quite nasty footage or event, and that's the sort of things that will stick in people's brains, because we don't share the footage of when nothing happens for 8 hours. Who's going to watch that footage? There's sort of, there's no purpose. But it isn't to say that it shouldn't be spoken about. The days where sort of it can be quite dull, not a lot happens. You can shut a hunt down very quickly without any violence or anything like that. That's just this is the issue with the hunt side, and I think we've discussed this before. There's so many avenues and elements to discuss with it, and I think sometimes people don't look into the individual avenues in any great depth, which is what I've tried to do with this video. I've tried to address just sort of everything and really discuss it like from just a completely honest opinion. Again, it's a tough one, because I don't represent all of the HSA. I don't represent every hunt sab. My experiences be different to everyone else's. You know, the way I handle things mentally with hunt sabbing will be different to another hunt sab. So it was a tricky one because I wanted to come across it, you know, and genuinely talk honestly and fairly. But it is only from my perception. But I think, you know, things like the public need to know that one thing, hunting it still exists, it still goes on, and to try and really squash some of these negative perceptions of hunt sabs, because they are, you know, all nonsense. And I think they're only really backed up by the pro hunt, by the hunting world. I don't think many of the really nasty conceptions of hunt sabs are believed by the public. They're just not spoken about enough.
Yeah, they're almost just not aware at all that any of this is going on.
Yeah, and I think that's more what it is. It's not that the public don't care. It's that they're just not aware. So if we can make them aware, and then when they look into the world, they'll see all this, you know, quite negative footage. But then if it can be backed up by someone like myself or other hunt subs addressing those negative situations, I think it will bring more people to the fight. And that's sort of, like I say, one of my intentions through this video is try and get as many people involved from different backgrounds. And again, like if they can't join us in the field physically as hunt sabs, then, you know, I can pass them on to the sort of the more campaign-based work that Keep the Band do. And it's just sort of, there's so many people that want to get involved and want to help in one way or the other. I just think some people believe if they're not in the field as a hunt sab physically, there's nothing they can do. And that's another thing that, like I said, with the live stream videos from a couple of months ago, I wanted to get it to people that it doesn't matter what you will be an asset, whether you join us in the field or whether you join us in a different way. People just need to be aware of how valuable they are and the things that they can do.
You mentioned that point there about, you know, and you, as you said, you know, you don't represent the whole hunt sabbing community, and you're really conscious of that in what you say and how you present yourself. What's the reaction been like from that community? Have you generally found support, you know, in terms of getting the message out there, or is anybody wanting you to refine that message?
I mean, yeah, so far, the especially from like the hunt sab community, the response has been really, really good. Again, a video of this type has never been made before, so there, you know, there's been people saying like, you know, it's great what you've done, but it is risky, and I fully understand that. But no, the general response and support from the hunt sab community has been brilliant. I think they also understand how important this video can be. And again, it's sort of, that's why I found it really difficult, because it's a tough one. Because like I say, you know, who am I to put myself on camera and try and talk about these huge topics? I've only been a hunt sab for 3 years. I know people that have been a hunt sab for 25, 30 years, you know.
Yeah.
But again, it's just sort of, I don't know. It's one of those things where I just felt like it was just something I wanted to do, and this is why it was nice to do it through Keep the Band. It was separate to the HSA, so I can say I'm not here to represent them. If you know, if there's anything that they're not happy with, it hasn't come from them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's me independently. I've come forward and I'm saying, this is my views. These are my experiences. These are what I believe about hunt sabbing and about hunting. But yeah, the response from the sab community has been brilliant, and we are planning for upcoming videos which are going to have other hunt sabs involved, whether they are masked up or not, whether they are named or not. We're just going to try and really expand from this first video of just me, with just, you know, my views and my experiences, and then try and, as I did with the live streams, bring in other hunt sabs, you know, from different backgrounds, from different locations of the country, and then sort of get their views and opinions, just to try and give this really rounded, honest view of what hunt sabbing is from as many different perspectives as possible. I just felt like it needed sort of one person to do this first video and to see how it goes, but other sabs to sort of to want to be involved. Because like I say, I understand why this hasn't been done. It's not been done through any point of, you know, bravery or anything like that. It's just something that I feel needs to exist. And as I say, I think the benefits of this video and upcoming videos that I plan to do will outweigh any sort of negative things that come my way. Because I mean, as we know, we spoke about the hunt. I've been away with myself and my company for years. You know, it's not like I get, you know, shit off them all the time. This is just going to be another thing. It's not like my life is going to now dramatically change because of this video. They already don't like me. They already don't like what I do, which is kind of funny. It's kind of why I felt like it's not that it should be me, but if there's going to be one person that's going to really upset them, it will be me.
The proverbial horse has already bolted, as it were.
Yeah, because I think that was the fun bit. But anyone who hasn't watched the first bit of the video, I don't want to spoil it, but there is this sort of quite sort of over the top introduction scene where, you know, there's a big, you know, I'm fully masked up and there's a whole dramatic demasking thing. And that's the bit that will really get under the skin of the Hunt, who are aware of, you know, myself and Rob and our work, is when they see my face. It's just going to be just another little dig on them, really.
Yeah, I think when you came up with the company Fuck the Hunt, I think that you probably put your head above the parapet at that point, certainly.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
And fair play to you. Fair play. You mentioned, and I love this idea of, you know, you wanting to perhaps demystify hunt sabbing, make it accessible to people who maybe have wanted to get involved, maybe thought, you know, I don't think that's for me. And your example kind of showing them that maybe, you know, they could get involved, whether it be from an administrative function or whether it be in direct action. Have you had much reaction from those folks? Are there people coming forward saying, actually, how do I get involved? Where do I start?
Yeah, like I say, and this is what gave me the confidence and the desire to do this video. It came from doing the live streams. Just from those 4 or 5 live streams I did, yeah, I got lots of messages through social media through people, like I say, saying, you know, I've always wanted to become a hunt sab, but I wasn't aware of this, or this was what was holding me back. Thanks to your talks with yourself and other hunt saboteurs, it's removed, you know, not removed the concerns, but made me understand them and made me go, okay, right. Yeah. Despite my thought of how effective I would be, they've now been shown that it's sort of all those silly things that I think are, you know, the main thought in someone's head. You know, you've got to be physically fit, you've got to be strong, tough. Every week you're going to get, you know, insane amounts of violence. There's going to be fights. You're going to get hurt week in, week out, and we know that's just not the reality. But I understand why people have those thoughts. You know, I get that. I do get that. But yeah, like I say, the response has been great, and I really hope more people will get involved in hunt sabbing. And again, I think it's something that we might have spoke about before. You know, when I do these things, I understand that it's not going to make 1 million people become hunt sabs overnight. But if it makes, you know, 2 or 3 people from, you know, loads of different areas in the country become hunt sabs, even one extra sab is enough to make such a difference. People, and this goes back to what I spoke about a lot that week, is people, I hate this idea that people believe that they can't make a difference. Just them, they won't change anything. Yeah. And it's just not true. It's just not true. Having just one extra person in the field, taking a team from 3 to 4 or 5 to 6, that is enough to literally save a life on a day. Yeah. In sabbing. So yeah, if all of this just causes 10 more people to become hunt sabs, cool, I'm happy.
It's worth it.
Because it's worth it. This is what I mean. But yeah, the response overall has just been great. And like I said before you jumped on, I've been trying to respond and reply to as many people, but it's the amount of support and positivity has been really, really nice, to be fair. It's been awesome to see.
And forgive the complete naivety, but I want to ask this question just on that point about sort of almost recruiting new hunt sabs and people who are interested who can support the cause. From my limited understanding, you know, I see and follow lots of hunt sab groups, support, you know, where I can from donation points of view, and you know, whenever they have a vehicle off the road and they need some help, you know, I'd like to try and chip in, those kind of things. And I see loads of groups, and it's great. You know, I've even seen new groups popping up and things like this, and it's fantastic. But what's the scale of the hunting problem? You know, how are we still in need of new groups? Are we still massively under-resourced? I guess is it a challenge still to cover all of the hunting activity that's out there?
I mean, as I say, having more sabs is never going to be
not a bad thing. Whichever way.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So having the more hunt sabs, the better. I wouldn't say that, you know, we're understaffed. Yeah. I've already had some very brilliant negative comments from the hunt saying this is a desperate move to recruit people. It must show that the hunt sabs are dwindling, and this is one last effort to raise the flag and start the fight. And it's not that. I mean, what people don't seem to. Again, this isn't because they don't know. It's because they just haven't been told yet. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of sabs to shut down a hunt. You know, a hunt that could have 30, 40 riders with, you know, 100 members of support there, or whatever, you know, the biggest hunt in the country or whatever, can be shut down by 6 SABs. You know, if you're strategic and you do it in the right way, a whole hunt can be shut down with a couple of people. So then this is where the hunt, they like to say, you know, how pathetic the SABs are, you know, and how dwindling numbers are when only 4 or 5 people turn up a week. Like, is that all you've got? Sometimes that's all we need. As I say, the more SABs, the better, always. But it's not, like I say, it's not like we're understaffed. But there's so many things that would change if we had more SABs per week. Like I said, especially when it comes to things like the physical violence, which is a lot of people's main concern. Again, fully understand it. The only reason that the physical violence occurs is because often they outnumber us by quite a lot. Yeah. And this is what, you know, this is the only reason why they feel big and strong and tough and hard, is because there's, you know, 10 of them and 2 of us. If there was 15 of us, you know, the violence just would decrease massively. Not because we're there to cause the fight. It's just because it would take away the power from these people. That's another thing that I think needs to be spoken about more. It is quite easy to remove these people's power. But yeah, like I say, the more SABs the better, and that's always going to be my goal with these things. But no, it's not that we haven't got the numbers. Like, like more groups are forming, which is brilliant. As we see, more hunts are having to either fold or join to keep up their numbers. So there is definitely a shift in balance in between, sort of, not the numbers, because, you know, in terms of numbers, they will always outweigh us by huge numbers, but the effectiveness of SABing is being proven time and time again. It's another point I speak about in the video. You know, people always question the effectiveness of hunt SABs, and we are effective. You know, I think in one of the upcoming parts of the video, I've been a hunt SAB now for 3 years. In 3 years, I've only been a part of and witnessed 2 kills. And, you know, not to remove how horrible those 2 situations were, but 3 years to account for only 2 foxes killed just by fox hunting. So I know that as soon as I say that, the farmers come out and, you know, they love to boast and tell me how many foxes they shoot every day, you know. But in terms of hunting, in terms of foxes killed by hunting, 2 foxes in 3 years is an incredible ratio. And if we weren't there, it would have been 200 foxes. You know, they are hunting to kill. So when people say the effectiveness of the hunt SABs, we are effective. But again, I think that negative point of, are they effective, is only backed up by the hunts. I really don't believe that the public who know about hunt SABing have a high level of negative thoughts towards us. It does seem to be only backed up by the hunt themselves.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, going back to the bit about, you know, people who want to get involved, general kind of perhaps their biggest concern being the violence side of things. And you do mention that in the video, and it's an interesting point. Probably 99% of your experiences have been relatively, I wouldn't say calm walks in the countryside, but have been, you know, non-violent. The fact that you were there was the thing that stopped the hunt, not the fact that you got into a confrontation. Is that sort of generally the experience? Yeah.
And again, it goes back to what we were saying. The only reason this idea that it's violent every week, because every week, unfortunately, there probably is, you know, an assault or someone has a bad day, and that's the footage that just gets shared around. So it does appear that it happens all the time. But, you know, from one group having one bad day, there's, you know, 100 groups that literally just had to walk and follow the hunt until they packed up. So yeah, there are some days, like I say, where it is just it's not dull, but not a lot happens. All you've got to do is be there long enough, and the hunt will get, you know, annoyed and pack up. You know, if you're there with a camera on them all day, they can't get away from you, and you're there filming everything they do. That's enough, and they'll pack up. And again, because this is another thing that I need to get across to these videos, is our focus in the field is the hounds. You know, we couldn't care for a lot of what else is going around us, the stewards, the terrier men, the support on the side of the road. No, that's not our focus. It's the hounds. It's the hounds that kill the fox. It's not even the riders. Do you know what I mean? We have very little concern about what the field are doing. Our main focus is, you know, the hunt master and the hounds.
Yeah.
So we never, you know, we don't put ourselves in the physical violence situations. It's always brought to us because it's a distraction. You know, we're there to distract the hounds, the people who cause the violent situation. They're there to distract us because they know that the longer that we're there having to muck around with these idiots who are trying to, you know, kick us and push us over and steal our equipment, that's when the hunt can get 2 or 3 fields away from us. And by that point, we have to regroup, get back in the car, find them again, reposition to be effective. So that's where all the violence comes from. It's them distracting us from us trying to distract them. It's this weird, back and forth, but their only go-to sometimes is violence. But no, it really doesn't happen as often as is portrayed. But again, I understand why this idea happens, because of these videos that go viral and get shared around a lot.
Yeah, there's a little question in the chat come in about the cull. I don't know if you wanted to share some thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, so I assume that he's asking about the badger cull.
Yeah, I assume so. Yeah.
Yeah, which again is I've not spoken about the badger cull. This is what I also try to do. I try to never speak about something that I don't know. I'm aware of the badger cull. People from my group do some incredible work with the badger cull. At least 2 of my team were there every day for last season's badger cull. It's something that I've just not been a part of yet. I want to, like, when the cull comes around, I do want to be a part of it and get to know that well, because again, it is a really horrible thing that is, and the reason it exists is again, it is all based on lies and this misconception of the badger and the damage it can cause. And it is, again, from what I've seen of it, it is just an excuse for people to go out and shoot badgers for fun. But the cull, again, and this is something that I want to do more work for. But again, as I said with the live stream, I think with activism is you sort of, because it is such a huge, mentally draining thing, you have to pick your avenues and your battles. And if you try and take on too many things at once, you might not put enough effort into one area of the fight. And I never like to do anything by half measures. And again, or speak about things that I don't know. I think what would be great about that question actually is maybe I should do a live stream with someone that has done a lot of work for years in the badger cull. Because again, I need to learn more about the badger cull, if I'm honest. So yeah, and in terms of that question, I'm sorry, I don't know too much about it, unfortunately. But it is a horrible thing where hundreds of thousands of badgers are killed. And I think it's been proven that it's one of the issues they have against badgers is the idea they spread TB.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's been sort of proven that they don't, and TB can be spread more by hounds, running across 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fields a day. But still it continues. But no, I fully agree with the fact that it is overlooked, and there can be more work towards it. Again, it's just not something that I've yet been able to move myself into. Again,
certainly, for myself, not a subject that I've got huge expertise in either. But I agree with the question insofar as I think it's under talked about and overlooked. And in fact, recently, the result came back of a petition that I'd signed for. To stop the cull, and yet again, exactly the sort of misinformation that was given in a response was about TB and ultimately profit. In terms of the potential loss of livestock and of people's cattle. So again, I think. I think you're spot on insofar as it's overlooked. Maybe that's like you say a subject for a live stream, definitely. Moving on to the subject of because as you'll know from the podcast, I've got many and varied guests from all kinds of different backgrounds. It doesn't necessarily simply focus on direct action, although I think it's an area that I want to talk about more, to be honest, because and I'd love to get your perspective on this, because I definitely think. Veganism itself, and I know we're not strictly talking about veganism, but we're talking about activism. But with the podcast, it would be remiss of me not to mention it. But from that point of view, I think there are a lot of new vegans. There are lots of people who are influencing others to try the lifestyle and learn more about veganism, etc. Do you see, as I think I do, perhaps not necessarily? There's a lot of connection with the lifestyle, and I use that in the term of like vegan influencer lifestyle, and not necessarily the connection with direct action, with activism, with steps that we can take to stop animal cruelty and the things that are going on. It's much more about how many seeds you put on your porridge that morning. I'd love to get your sort of perspective on that.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I did a live stream more about veganism because, despite, as you say, first and foremost, I'm a Hunt Sub, I'm an activist, but I am a vegan. I have been for years. But veganism it's a really it's a tricky one, I find, to talk about on social media, because what happens with because on social media people forget, you put an idea out or an opinion out as a statement or a comment or a meme or a GIF or whatever, and it goes out to thousands of people, and each person is going to respond to that differently, react to it differently based on their own opinion, their views, their current situation, their current lifestyle, and then suddenly you put out one statement which is probably meant from a good place and is a good statement and a good idea, but you're going to get 1,000 different responses and 1,000 different views and opinions, and in the end the whole purpose of your statement becomes lost. And it's sort of, sometimes I feel like, not that it sort of undermines vegans, but I think just people put out too many blanket statements. And I've spoken about this in terms of hunting as well. I think people use too many blanket statements and they go, here's this about why you should be vegan. If you're not vegan, you're a horrible, horrible person. And then they just walk away from the conversation. And the second someone challenges them, they get super defensive. People like some of the influencers that I've spoken about for hours now, and I hate talking about them, but they just have these responses which just get aggressive, and it's almost like they're not even backing up. They put out this statement, if you're not vegan, you're a horrible person, change my mind. And then they just walk away from the whole topic. They walk away from the whole conversation. And I don't think that's the best way to do it. I always try to find that you need to, and I know this takes a lot longer, but it's a lot more effective. You need to talk to people individually, really get to know the question they're asking, the point they're making, where has that question come from, and how you can sort of, respond in a way that is not going to be challenging, because we know, we're humans, and you tell someone not to do something, they're going to do it twice as much because you told them not to.
Yeah.
And it's something I found and learned over the years. The best way to talk to them is really listen to what they're saying, listen to their question, and just don't come at them in a challenging fashion. Veganism at the minute, I believe, it has become kind of a popular thing, a cool thing, even to go as far as to say it's like a fad. But the thing with veganism is, if you're just doing it to be cool, then fair enough, whatever. But with veganism, the more you look into it, if you turn vegan and you start looking into the animal, like agricultural world, all those sorts of things, it's things you can't unsee.
Yeah. And
that's when it becomes a proper reality. I think it's when it changes from being like a fad to an actual, like a lifestyle choice, a life-changing choice. Because the more you look into it, again, it's just things you can't unsee. But again, the thing with it, the more people that are vegan, for whatever reason, brilliant. It's less, it's less abuse in the world towards animals.
Yeah,
getting the transition from people who are going vegan to be cool, or because they've been, they've responded to influencers, to activism, is quite a difficult thing, because to be a vegan for yourself, it's easy. You do it for yourself. It doesn't, you just do it. To become an activist that stuff can affect you. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of, there's a lot more to it. And again, this is why I try to say, like, I hate when things get compared. People always compare A and B when A and B aren't always comparable, and it just causes it doesn't make sense. So it is a tricky one. But then this is the thing with activism and hunt sabbing, is you don't have to be vegan. There's no hunt sabs. There's not a rule like you have to be vegan first, then you can become a hunt sab. And this is why I have some really interesting conversations with people, because I get a lot of messages saying, like, I love what you do. Love what you're doing. I think fox hunting is disgusting, it's barbaric, but I eat meat. So by eating meat, am I a hypocrite for being against fox hunting? And a lot of people will go, yes, you are. How can you be okay with this situation but not this situation? This is when they compare A and B, but A and B are completely different avenues of topic of conversation. So what I say to these people is, the fact that you've acknowledged one area of animal abuse, you've looked at one situation and understood that is wrong. That is wrong. You've got that level of compassion and understanding in you to look at something and realize it's wrong. And it's not got nothing to do with you. It's got something to do with an animal you've got no connection with, but you understand that situation is wrong. And that's when I sort of tell them, well, look, you've looked into that, maybe look into other things, look at other areas of animal abuse that you know are wrong. And then eventually what I find is some people will come full circle and I'll bring it back to their own lifestyle choices and their own dietary choice. And I think that's just the best way to talk to people, because it's not, I just think the people that call these people hypocrites straight away, you're only going to make people take a step backwards. And because there's this big thing, I'm sure you would have seen it, where people say, being vegetarian as being worse than meat eaters, because not only are you still contributing to animal abuse, but you're also a hypocrite because you think you're doing something good when you're not. And it's like, I don't think that's the way that we should. I don't think that's the correct way to view it. You know, these people have taken steps forward to reduce some elements of animal abuse in their life. Don't now attack them for that and send them backwards. Try and say, look, you've come this far, you've taken these steps. Why not look into this and this and try and guide everyone forward? Again, this is why I get in love with these blanket statements that I just think are really damaging. And these influencers with millions of followers, because people look at them, because of the amount of followers they have, they assume whatever they're saying must be right because they've got the most followers. Their videos are getting the most views. So they sort of believe what these people do and the way they go about promoting activism or veganism. And I just feel like that's not the best way to do it. And again, you know, I'm coming from a much smaller platform, so my word won't get out to as many people, but I just think it's important to try and, again, just to try and approach things differently. And in my opinion, in a better way. But yeah, no, going back to the question, it's hard to get people to go from, you know, they're new to veganism to then throw them straight into the world of hunt sabbing.
Yeah.
Because again, I've never said that hunt sabbing is easy. I understand it is a very difficult thing for people to get involved in. It's a difficult thing to do. But yeah, I think what needs to be spoken about more again is not the fact that you need to be vegan or have a set of credentials. It's the fact that it doesn't matter who you are or what age, what fitness level, gender, race, whatever. All those things that separate us have got nothing to do with anything in the world of hunt sabbing. And again, even your diet isn't brought into it. We've had people join my group that weren't vegan when they joined based on the things they've seen in the field. And, you know, they have then gone vegan themselves. It was never pushed on them. It was never, if you want to continue doing this, you have to be vegan. And I think that's a good ideology to bring into the world of other people, like, you know, the vegetarians. Instead of calling them hypocrites, go, well, cool, you've come this far, you've taken these steps, you know, what's the next step for you moving forwards? I think we just need to reevaluate how we deal with some situations, some topics, and the way we respond to people. And I think, and again, I don't want to talk about influencers because they've done my head in over the past few weeks. It's just like the people on the pedestal. Yeah, because this is why I find it funny. You know, I'm quite fortunate now. People are looking at my video, and then I'm always becoming an influencer, like these people that I'm saying not to listen to. And you find yourself in a really weird place. But yeah, I just think, like I say, with hunt sabbing, I'm trying to look at ways to do things differently, not to change things or say this isn't working, but just new ways of approaching things, which I think is how we should view a lot of things, you know, veganism, activism, even things when, you know, things we're not here to talk about, you know, like phobia and racism, all these stupid things that shouldn't exist. You know, there's got to be other and new ways to look at them and view them and talk about them in the hope of changing and ending all these ridiculous things that still exist in our world.
I think that point you make there about, you know, discourse, you know, let's have a conversation about things. Let's not walk away from it making a blanket statement. I think as much as social media tries to drag us into that world of make a blanket statement, then walk away and watch the comments explode, I think, you know, that's not effective. You know, I, as you were talking there, it reminded me of something about something somebody said to me about, you know, remember the 3 or 4 minutes before you made the revelation that turned you vegan, and what was your life like then, and what was your viewpoint then, and try and have the same empathy that you would have wanted somebody to have had with you in that particular moment. And I think you kind of sum that up. That's exactly, in my view, where we should be. Although I also accept that there's many different ways to communicate a message, and certain things resonate with different folks, and, you know, all those kind of things too. Less of a question, more of a statement.
No, sorry, I fully agree, and that's the thing, you know, because what the idea that, you know, because I can't remember the actual quote, but it's like you're only as smart as the most recent thing you've learned. To sort of say that, you know, what, like the content and context of the you know, the information I've been out to the world. This isn't new. I'm not the first person. I've not discovered hunt sabbing and brought it to the world. It
exactly,
exists. I'm not telling people anything new. I'm just trying to talk about it in a different way. You know what I mean? And again, this is the issue with the, you know, like when people want to attack the vegetarians in such a way. You know, you don't know what part of the journey they're on. You don't know what's got them to that point in the first place. So before you just straight up attack them, why not talk to them and learn a bit about how they got to that place before just, because like no, okay, some people vegan from birth, awesome, but 95, 96, 99% of people were not vegan from birth. I ate meat for 21 years of my life. I can't now come out of nowhere and go, you're a vegetarian, you're a bad person. You can't. You can't exist from that standpoint. And people like these influencers, they do. I think they seem to forget the time before they were vegan. Do you know what I mean? And then they just throw their moral compass at people in such an aggressive way. That does annoy me. And I think that's why there's still these misconceptions of what, these extreme vegans. And I understand that there are people that, come across it in, I think, the wrong way to do it. And again, the way that I've learned to do it over the years, talking about veganism or hunting, I found I've had a much more positive response to people, whether they believe me or not, whether they in turn go vegan or become a hunt sab or not. I've found that I don't have arguments with people anymore. I have discussions, I have conversations. I think that's the purpose of this video with Keep the Ban. It is going to upset people. It is going to anger the hunt, definitely. I know that. Part of the video is to do that, is to undermine them, but also the video is there to cause conversations. I'm trying to answer questions that people might be having in their head. Maybe it will cause more questions. Maybe there's going to be a follow-up video to the responses. Just trying to have these conversations. Again, like I say, the majority of the public, it's not in their thought process to think about hunting or talk about hunting. So let's try and see if we can cause that conversation and get people talking about it, in their own worlds, behind their own closed doors, and see what comes of it that way.
100%. It'd be remiss of us not to talk about, and I'm just aware of, we've been chatting away now, it's great. But be remiss of me not to ask about Stay Close Clothing and how you're getting on. How are things? Because I particularly asked because I saw the amazing tie-up with, is it Casey Louise Powell? I just think it's awesome. The artwork's incredible. Like, it's another level and a different dimension. Love you to talk about that if you can.
Yeah, I mean, well, to be fair, like I was saying this the other day, I've been incredibly fortunate. When lockdown happened, when the pandemic happened, and people lost their jobs, people had to go on furlough, people didn't know where the next paycheck was coming from. There was every chance that an independent clothing company would fold. People didn't need to buy T-shirts or hats, whether there was a cause behind it or not. These were not essential items. So, part of me understood. I think, as we said before, I understood that this could have ended. The company, in terms of selling clothing and selling merchandise, could have and should have folded. Bigger businesses, much bigger than myself, have folded. So I sit here blown away by the support over the past year. And again, this is why I started doing the live streams in the first lockdown, because it felt so wrong to be promoting products and asking people for their money when they should have been buying, bread, pasta, medicine, or panic buying toilet roll, whatever they wanted to do. It just felt wrong to be saying, oh, by the way, I've got this nice hoodie, whether or not there be a message behind it or not. But yeah, it's the support's been incredible. And again, I think what was quite good is I did sort of adjust how the company was being ran. I sort of, the live streams were a really good way of engaging with people. It gave me something to do. It gave me something to look forward to, because I was furloughed from both my jobs. As I've said, people don't know that Stay Close isn't my full-time job. I've got 2 other jobs, so I was furloughed from that. Having Stay Close in the live streams was a really huge mental boost for me. It gave me something to look forward to do every day, to work on, whether we were selling or not, whether we were able to make new products or not. And then, like I say, we were blessed with the amount of support people did still buy products from us, and to the point now where we're coming out even bigger and stronger than ever. And I think part of that is because I've had a whole year to do nothing but stay close. When I have my other 2 jobs and my activism and my hunt selling, Stay Close only gets a very small percentage of my time, and it's a shame because I never want to half-ass anything. I want to put 100% to everything. And for a year of just doing Stay Close, the position we're in now is incredible. Obviously, the collaboration with Keep the Ban is massive, and it's going to allow me to, I think what's going to be nice is it's going to allow me to sort of separate my activism side of the company. I can sort of push that more with sort of the Keep the Ban collaborators, and maybe take Stay Close back to a more, again, not an unopinionated company, because it can't ever not be that now, but it might be able to allow me to separate some of the stuff and allow me to make some products and try some things that I've always wanted to do, but my focus has always been on the activism. And I'm always going to do that first. But if I can sort of, now I've got the time to sort of separate it a little bit. There's going to be some interesting things. And then, again, because this is another thing that I'm trying to do in terms of the collaborations with people like Katie, and then I worked with a guy called Sam Dunn, who's an incredible artist. Is sort of the idea of taking other people from other, like places of the, different industries, and having them in collab, because it's a subliminal dig against the hunt again. It's like, look at how many people are willing to come together and collaborate and take a stand against you, and things like that are really nice. Because for a long time, obviously I've got the Hunt Slab community, which is a beautiful community. But in terms of a company like myself, I felt like we were sort of on our own, fighting this battle. And like I say, it can get a bit mentally overwhelming. But then when you have these collaborations, like we did an incredible collaboration with the guys over in Punk Pause. We did quite a graphic T-shirt, and just having that support of these people who want to come together and all take a stand against the hunt. That's been incredible. And yeah, the responses to these new T-shirts, designs, and products has also been amazing. Like I say, I feel really fortunate that one thing the company's still here in terms of its selling products, but as I've said multiple times, if it was not, the company would still exist as like an activist platform. But I do like the idea of trying to, just bring other people together, because like a tattoo artist might not believe they'll have any effects in challenging the hunt or being involved in activism. But if they're willing to have their artwork out there as a stand, against the hunt, it's just another thing. Like I say, when we go back to the numbers of physical hunt slabs in the field, people seem to forget, there's maybe only 5 or 6 of us in the field at one time, but the support in the background from the public and these other companies and these people, these artists, these musicians, there's actually more of us than them.
Yeah.
Just not physically in the field. And I think it's nice to acknowledge that. And again, it's incredible when people have, again, not to use the word bravery, but, they're willing to put their names out there against the hunt. Because as we know, the way I've done some of the things in terms of activism is the way you shouldn't do it, because it's very public. It's not how things are done. So for anyone that is comfortable with putting their name out there and their face out there and their company or their artwork out there to stand against the hunt, I think is a really strong message.
100%. And more power to you for it. And I definitely recommend folks check out that. I love that collaboration with Casey Louise Powell. I think it's awesome. Really cool.
Yeah. I've wanted to work with Kate for a while because she's a hunt slab, and just because that was another thing that I think one of the first times we spoke is, that was when I was giving my artwork away for free to all the hunt slab groups to sort of make every group have their own sort of individual merch, which I think is incredibly important. Is now I've seen that other hunt slab groups are now collaborating, like the Manchester Hunts did a shirt with Katie, and I was really jealous of it, and it's probably better than anything I've ever done. I really like it, but I'm glad that other groups are now reaching out to artists, and they're sort of, they're making their own merch. They're throwing their own sort of spin on doing merch and selling to sort of make their own group self-sufficient. And that was sort of the thing that I really wanted to happen. So I started off by giving away my artwork for free, and I'm glad that other artists are now working with the Hunt Slabs. And I do feel like we just need to pull more people together in this fight, whether they're in the field with us or not. The more people that are behind us and back us and support us, as I say, there is more of us than them, and I think that number is only going to increase.
So like you said earlier, I think there's a place for everyone in that sort of activist community, whether it's
Definitely
signing petitions, with Keep the Ban, or doing something administrative, doing something creative, being out in the field. Kind of all hands on deck sort of thing is the approach that we need, and everyone's got a place. So yeah, I love that point, and thanks for sharing it.
I think that. Sorry, go on.
No, you go.
Well, I think we haven't really spoken about the video that much. I want to get it across to anyone that's watching. So the first part of the video is out now, and it's a very
yes.
We wanted to keep it the content quite light as an introduction. The upcoming parts, the next couple of series, there is some very very intense, very quite emotive stories that get told. And it sounds weird because like I say, they're stories that I've gone through that were really difficult to film on camera. But I am really excited to see the response to them, as sort of weird as that sounds. Like we wanted to make the first part of the video the word's not boring, but we wanted to make the content quite neutral. We didn't want to shock people. But the upcoming segments of the video, I think, are going to be really really powerful in terms of some of the stories that are told. Things, about the kills that, every time I speak about them on live streams, they're really difficult to talk about. Talking about things like one of the assaults that I went through, which led to quite a serious injury. Like this, I'm really proud of this video. And I'm just, like I said, the response so far has been incredible. And I really think it's going to do a lot of good. I really want just everyone, as many people to watch it as possible.
Where can folks see the first part? I know you've got it out on your Insta, but if they want to follow Keep the Ban, is that the best place to go?
Yeah, so if you go to Keep the Ban Instagram page, there'll be a link to it. The Keep the Ban Facebook page, there'll be a link to it, or the Keep the Ban YouTube channel. We basically it's up everywhere across different media and platforms. But yeah, the best place to be would be go to Keep the Ban, and you'll find it there. And yeah, the first part is only about 5 minutes, so it's a nice sort of. It's not too intense. There's nothing too shocking. It's not there to scare anyone. It's just a nice introduction to everything we're going to talk about. And then the following up episodes, there's some really quite intense stories, which I think are really going to connect with people. And I think the people that, like I say, don't have an opinion on it, I'm really hoping it might cause some quite good conversations.
And part 2, when can we expect that?
Hopefully, as far as I'm aware, part 2 is going to be on Friday. I think the aim is to drop one every Friday for the next 4 weeks. And then, as I say, in between that, we are hoping to film some more videos with other hunt sabs to get other views and opinions, and just try and, I'm trying to paint this picture of what the reality of hunt sabbing is, and I want to try and continue that. But yeah, I think the plan at the minute is to do one video a week for the next sort of 3 weeks, every Friday.
Awesome. And if folks want to find out more about hunt sabbing off the back of that video, they want to learn a bit more, figure out where to go next. Where would you recommend?
So on the actual, if you get to the YouTube channel, in the comment section, we've left links down below, links to the Hunt Sab website, links to how you can get in contact with your local Hunt Sab group. But if anyone's got any questions, they're always welcome to message my page. Instagram's probably the best way to contact me, or message the Hunt Sab Instagram page. But yeah, like I say, on the actual video, there is links to loads of information. There's links to the actual Keep the Ban website, which has got heaps of information, a link to the Hunt Sab website. So yeah, that would be the best place to get everything.
Awesome. And it'd be remiss of me not to mention, but there's also it's also worth checking out the first conversation that we had way back when on the podcast, because I think you gave an amazing, really enlightening to me, certainly, insight into how you got into the world of hunt sabbing and where it's taken you. I think you spoke about some of your experiences out in the field too. So I'd recommend folks check that out, of course.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I think some of the stories that we spoke about on our first podcast are brought up in the video. And yeah, like I say, they're not nice stories, but they're the reality. They're important. I understand it's important to talk about those difficult days and those tough days.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I say, I'm really proud of it, and I'm really thankful to Rob for giving me the opportunity to make this video. So that it was just nice that, like I say, it's an idea that I've had for a while, but because of the consequences that could come of it, I know why it hasn't been done. But yeah, I'm just really glad the content is out there, and I really hope and I really think it will make a difference. Like I say, whether it gets people out in the field or not, but just starting the conversation about these topics and just seeing what comes of it, really.
Well, more power to you, and thank you for all you do in this space. And I've really enjoyed the conversations over lockdown. I think you've brought some fantastic topics to light and introduced us to some great people. And I think this is another example of, like you said earlier in the conversation, thinking of different ways to bring about a dialogue. So I love it, and huge thanks for it.
No, thank you. Yeah, thank you for doing this. Yeah, it's been great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, thank you for everyone who joined. It's been a pleasure. It's always good to chat. This will be out as a standalone podcast as well at some point soon, probably in May, I would suspect, maybe earlier as a bonus. So look out for that. Huge thanks. Great to have you. Me to have you, you to have me. When I was on your channel, wasn't I? But it's been great chatting with you either way.
Awesome. Cheers, mate. Thank you for this. And we'll speak off camera. But I really appreciate this, mate. Thank you very much.
Cheers, buddy. See you soon.
All right. See you soon.
Bye now.
Bye.